Hello, my name is Craig and I am 49.
Hi, Craig. How are you feeling just right now, right here with me?
I am excited, I'm relaxed, I'm having fun talking to a friend and um, looking forward to questions that don't all have answers.
So, it has been a few days that I followed you, you helped me, you host me, you feed me, you introduce me to people, and I just wonder why. Why are you part of this project?
Um, I think the root of that starts with couch surfing. And as a person of faith, believe that humanity has something to offer one another in relationship. And I, as a youth, traveled and did different things on mission trips or encountered different people and received the hospitality of staying in a home with someone, getting to know their culture, eating their food, even if I couldn't speak their language. So those were foundational um, to my life experience. And since then, I have had the opportunity to travel at other times, and more recently to Scotland, and on a long trip, stayed with many people in their homes, couch surfing. And I believe that that kind of hospitality, of welcoming a stranger rather than being afraid of a stranger, of feeding a friend rather than um, ignoring them, of offering a place to sleep. I think that's I think that's what it means, what it should mean, to be human and to share this life together with a diverse world.
Why did you accept to answer my questions?
Well, first of all, I figured if I'm lining up all these other people for you to interview and I didn't do it, I'd be in serious trouble with those other people. Um, Secondly, I think your questions are good questions. I think they're questions that um, many people would be afraid of, and I think that they are questions that encourage each person to look a little deeper, look deeper at ourselves and look deeper at our understanding of humanity and faith. Um, and I think, to be a good example, that I should demonstrate that it's not something we should be afraid of, but it's something we should engage with one another. And we should be willing to not only ask these questions of each other, but we should be willing to listen and know that your answer is not going to be the same as my answer, or someone else's answer isn't going to be the same as my answer. And we shouldn't expect each other's answers to be the same. We should celebrate the differences and the diversity of experiences and celebrate those things.
Who are you, Craig?
Who am I? I do think that's a great question. I am still a person that is in self discovery. I am a person who, through the course of my life, has been shaped. I've been shaped by my parents, by my church, by my friends, by my education, by my opportunity, by my privilege. Um, I'm a person who has made mistakes along the way. I'm a person who has hurt people unintentionally. And sometimes I look back, and at the time I realized I thought that I was in the right. And acknowledging the fact that I'm still in the process of self discovery, I realized that I was wrong. So I'm a person who's been wrong. I'm a person who, by the grace of God and the grace of others around me, still has the ability, the opportunity to transform. I'm a person who believes in the goodness of humanity, believe that we're created in the image of the divine in a way that I can look at others without ever meeting them before or knowing who they are. And I can look at people who have made mistakes. I can look at people who are in some of the worst places of their life, and I can still see a spark. I can still see the glimmer of God. I'm a person who, in the midst of this life, have a lot to celebrate. I have been blessed. I have received great blessings from where I am, who I am. Again, the privilege that I would have never understood that I had as a young man. I'm blessed with a family, 2 kids who are doing fabulous, and to watch them grow and to see them healthy, and that's all a blessing. To serve now as a pastor, even in my own struggle, even in my own digging to understand and discern who God is, and to try to make less mistakes in life. I'm blessed to be able to be in a position to serve others, to help others understand who they are and understand who God is and where God is in their life and in community. I'm blessed to be able to continue in my education and to look for ways to bring diverse voices together. I'm blessed by the people who have forgiven me in the past. I'm blessed by people who will forgive me in the future. I'm blessed to be loved and to love others. And I could go on and on with who I am, because I don't know that that's I don't think you can ever condense that either. It's an ongoing progression and understanding.
Can you share a bit of your story in a few words?
A bit of my whole story?
A part of it, what you want to share with us?
I grew up in Iowa, Spirit Lake in the Great Lakes area, and again was blessed. We had an acreage, so I had room to run. We had a big garden, and my mom always canned the food, and we had enough food to eat through the winter. We had an orchard with all kinds of fruit trees, and I was blessed by that. I have a musical background, and in high school my love was music, choir and show choir and a cappella choir, and again was blessed to, even I think it was my freshman year, that I was able to travel to New York and do some performing there with them, and to be in all-state choir here in Iowa many years. I continued that education in music at Waldorf College, and then went on to receive a bachelor's in musical theater, and did that for several years. Managed a sporting goods store on the side while I was doing the other at night. Lived in Colorado for a while and moved back to the area, did some youth ministry, and loved that, even though I was scared to death of it. Didn't think I'd be any good at it, but I was convinced God told me I should. And I even fought God for that, with that. I said, no, I didn't want to do that. I'd do anything else. You know how you make bargains with God? I felt God calling me to ministry, but he wanted me to do youth ministry, and I didn't think that was right. God proved me wrong. Eventually went to seminary to get my Master's of Divinity and ordained in the Methodist Church, and I've been serving and in many capacities at this point, several different churches, starting a church, and working with a congregation that's been around since almost the time that Iowa became a state, and helping start a house church, and that's been I guess kind of the core of who I am as a pastor and in service to humanity. And I think I ended up there partially because I did do some of the the performance, and I did do some of the retail management, and I always found myself doing that and then still doing ministry. I couldn't get away from ministry. It was God was constantly calling me to be in ministry, and I finally realized that God wanted more of me than part-time, and so that's how I ended up making that move into ministry. And I'm very blessed right now with where we are, and how God continues to bless us.
What brings you joy?
What brings me joy? Well, one thing that I know about myself is my personality type. Depending on which test you want to look at, I am that joyful person. I'm not only the glass half full, I am the glass overflowing almost always. Not saying that I don't find myself sad or depressed or stressed at times, but in general, I am that person who I can receive joy from a walk outside. I can receive joy waking up in the morning, and sometimes too much joy because my family will tell me to go back to bed until they're away, because I'm usually bouncing around and too loud in the morning. I receive joy when I worship, when I sing, when I play my guitar. I receive joy in a small group or in a one-on-one conversation like this. I receive joy when I'm able to sit with somebody in a difficult time. And even though there may be tears that I have or that they have, it still fills me with joy because I recognize that I'm allowing myself to participate with God, to be God's presence with someone in difficult times. And sometimes I think this world gets so busy that we don't make time, and we rush around from place to place, from work to home, and we don't make time for the stranger, or we don't welcome someone, or and I think I've slowed my life down enough, even though some people who hear this might disagree with that. They don't think my life is slow, but I intentionally make time for those things, and I receive joy from it.
What is your biggest fear?
My biggest fear, and I've said this many times, is failure. To fail at a project, or to fail in a relationship, to let someone down when they were depending on me. And I've done that. I've failed at things, and I've failed at projects, and I've failed at times that I should have been there with someone and didn't realize it. So I know what it feels like. I know what those biggest fears feel like. And they're hard sometimes. It's hard to pick yourself back up after you run face first into fear or failure or brokenness. But at the same time, it's the right and the good thing. And usually after I mess up and pick myself up, I can quickly find a reason to smile again, because I realize it's by picking myself back up that I'm able to, again, be that presence of God, or be human with someone and share life together. And that even though I've failed in the past, it doesn't mean I'll fail every time.
What are you proud of?
Oh, I've said before, pride itself can be a challenging thing, because pride can come before a fall or before failure. And to be proud of something can be a challenge. But I can tell you there's many things I'm proud of. I'm proud of my kids. I'm proud of individuals in church, and I'm proud of people who I've seen overcome great difficulty. I'm proud of how I've seen people rise up to the challenge. And there are things in my own life that I think, I could say I'm proud of an accomplishment. But I don't think that would be the right phrase. I think I am pleased when I'm involved in something that I see come to fruition, so that it's a blessing to others, or when I see others step up to fulfill it. I don't know that I can say that. I don't know that I ever choose to say that it's because of me that those things were successful. But my pride comes, I think, in the fact that God was able to work through me. The fact that with a team of others around me, some great things have happened. So it's usually the things that I'm not in control of at all that I'm most proud of, or the things that I'm blessed to participate in that I'm proud of. But I don't know that it's my own actions or my own abilities that I don't know that that's where I find my joy or find my sense of pride. It's in being able to participate.
Do you feel anger sometimes?
Of course, I think everybody does. I think it's part of being human. Jesus felt anger at times. I mean, I don't think you can be human and not have a full spectrum of emotions. Anger for me, usually it's the silly little things. Usually it's when I'm trying to get something accomplished really fast and things aren't going the way they should on my computer, and I'm trying to get something done and it just won't work right. And I'm like, and I get frustrated. Or plumbing working with plumbing. That's a great way to get me frustrated and a little bit angry. As a pastor, there are also times with people, and I won't say that I get angry, but sometimes impatient, sometimes frustrated. I have a deep sense of hope that abides with that and believes that we're all filled with potential. We're all children of God, and we're all in this together as humanity. And I hope for the best. And there's times when I see other people mistreating someone, when I see somebody getting knocked down or beat up or picked on, when I will get very frustrated and angry. And I will often find myself saying things that are not as contained, not as thought out, because I usually find myself standing up and defending someone. And interestingly enough, there's been times that I can look back in my life and say, I realize that I may have been the bully. And I didn't realize it. And I know that that's a statement of ignorance, maybe. But as I said earlier, I recognize that I'm a person who's still in process. And depending on where you come from, in my own experience growing up, you have a certain perspective that you cannot escape. That is who you are and how you're shaped. And so it's only through the process, I think, of falling down, of failing, of saying the wrong thing, and then in the process being educated, and hearing someone else's story, that you can begin to be changed. So I guess for me, there's been times I've been angry at myself. And especially as I look back and think, that was wrong. I wish I could redo that.
Will you vote in 2020?
Yes, I will.
What is the truth?
What is the truth? John 8:32, I think. Then you'll know the truth, and the truth is what sets you free. I think for me, something that I have come to realize is my truth is not always someone else's truth. And we are both all created and loved by God. Even though our truth, based upon our upbringing, our education, our family, our culture, is very different, I think you have to acknowledge that truth itself has a variety of strands, of components. Truth, absolute truth, I think, is hard to nail down, because you and I having a conversation, it would be hard to say that we agree on everything. I'm sure we don't. Now, I can say that the nearest thing that I have come to know in my own life experience of truth is what Jesus narrows down as the great commandments: to love God with all of our heart, our soul, our strength, and our mind, and to love our neighbor. I believe that's the best reflection of truth that I could share with anyone. And I think by doing that, what I'm essentially saying is I'm loving you and I'm loving your truth, even though it's not my truth. And in fact, what that comes back to for me is my truth, as I love someone else, recognizes and honors, respects, and lifts up everyone else's truth. Because again, we as humanity, we're in this together. And the only way we can do this together is if we love one another. And we love each other's truth, even if it's uncomfortable.
What is your truth?
I think that's probably as close as I'm going to get. My truth is to respect the truth of others, is to love others even above myself, to live out what I see in the life of Christ. The mission statement that I chose for the church that we're starting here is being Christ in community. And for me, it's an active challenge every day to actively be Christ to others. What does that look like? That means to pick up my cross, or the challenges, or it means to feed the poor, to feed the hungry, clothe the poor, sit with those who are in need, weep with those who are weeping, laugh with those who are laughing. It means to share life together. It means to have compassion and love. It means to know the story of someone enough that when they're going through a hard time, you're there for them. And for me, that means as much as I can in my role, to guide others in that same direction, to be Christ to others.
Are you free?
Am I free?
Said the truth will set you free.
Yes. I think in that reference, yes, in regards to free from bondage, free from burden, free from guilt, from those kinds of things that weigh us down. I think living a life of truth, living a life that honors and respects, loves the truth of others, yes, it's very freeing. When I look around and I see people who are angry, when I see people who are judging and on social media making very harsh or rude comments toward other people, they're not free. They're in bondage to their hatred. They're in bondage to seeing the differences between others and exclusively pushing them away or looking for ways to even do harm. and not necessarily physical harm, but emotional or spiritual harm. And I think the only way to truly be free is to love, and love in a way that overcomes that division or the divisiveness, the differences. To love somebody in the midst of their diversity. I think that's what we're called to. And when you can truly do that, you're free. And again, I'll say, I recognize I'm still in the process of that. There are times, even as you and I talked previously, there are times that you think you're free, and then something happens, and you feel this sense of fear in the back of your mind because of a circumstance or situation. And you have to catch yourself and say, remind yourself, no, that's not who I am anymore. I am set free. And again, like I said, I'm still growing in that. I have found a beautiful space and believe that I'm moving toward it, but I may never reach the fullness of it.
Craig, is there anything else you would like to add before we finish the conversation?
Just the fact that I admire you and I appreciate your project. I think that inviting people into this conversation is exactly the kind of thing that we as a nation, that we as a world, as humanity needs to be doing right now. We need to be asking each other tough questions, and we need to be sitting down and listening to one another instead of taking a position and looking for ways to beat others down. And I think, unfortunately, our world is very divisive right now. Our nation is very divisive right now over major issues. And again, as a pastor, I find myself in the middle of it, and in many ways not choosing to speak to it, because I think there's, as you have said, there's something above that. There's something beyond that. And what it comes down to is that it's our humanity. It's what Jesus says, to love God and love your neighbor, and the rest of it will take care of itself. I'm just not sure that we've taken the time that is required to love God. And we've not taken the time that is required to even see our neighbor or hear our neighbor, let alone love them. So I am very supportive of your project. I'm prayerful for it, and I'm hoping that it will open doors, not just for you and for the work that you're going to do with it, but also for all of humanity, that we can hear each other again, that we can look beyond our own perspectives and love each other.
Thank you so much, Greg, for your time, your trust, your help, and your wise words.
You're very welcome. Thank you.